Hi, welcome back to the Day Farmer Show. And in this episode, I have with me a distinguished professor at Northeastern University, founder of and CEO of Skillfully. Is that right? I think
Skillify.
Skillify, yeah. President of TASCA Global, and her new book is Build Your Cultural Agility: The Nine Competencies of Successful Global Professionals. Paula Caligiuri, welcome to the Day Palmer Show.
Pleasure to be with you, Dave.
Nice to be with you as well, Paula. I was struggling there, so I was hoping that maybe your professor brain might help me draw my my tongue twisting there. Sometimes get it mixed up, but anyway, never mind. I got the name right anyway.
You
Caligiuri.
sure did.
Yeah, excellent. Well, yeah, well, I'm really glad to have you on the show, and obviously it's certainly been a global issue this year. Obviously, or the past year, obviously with the pandemic and everything. We're not going to talk about the doom and gloom of the pandemic all through the show, but certainly one of the things we're using right now is Zoom, and that's certainly been a plus sign, isn't it? Really for everyone, it kind of saved a few people using this and other kind of mediums like Windows, Teams, and other means, but obviously Zoom's a big name that's been done. But the question I want to ask you is in terms of the work you do with global professionals and cultural kind of like getting ingrained with culture, what does every global professional need to know to succeed in the Zoom era?
In the Zoom era.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think what I'm seeing is that, for any global professional who's still working abroad, even during the pandemic,
Yeah.
they're using the collaborative tools like you named Zoom or Skype or whatever. And there's this assumption that because you're on Skype or because you're on Zoom or because you're on Google Meet or whatever, that cultural differences go away. And in fact, they become exacerbated. It's worse because you have so few cues to signal that you're in the middle of a cultural difference. I'll give you a great example.
I was going to ask you, yeah.
I'm an American, and Americans are known for being very informal. What ends up happening with informality is, when you essentially you can become more relaxed, you become even more informal. The Zoom context has made a lot of Americans even more informal. So, I was on a call the other day, and it was a global call. There were a number of people from different cultures, and one of my American colleagues is in a t-shirt eating his breakfast cereal.
Yeah.
Something that just was visually jarring for those who are in more formal culture. So there's all these subtle things, eye contact and distance, that we don't account for, but there's still cultural differences.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, you've certainly gone as far as writing a book about this, and you have a new book out, as I've mentioned, called Build Your Cultural Agility: The Nine Competencies of Successful Global Professional. What got you to write this book in the first place, anyway?
Yeah. Dave, it's interesting. So many people, when they think about cultural differences, and you want to think, let's just go at the most macro level, that idea of, I have a meeting in another country, or I'm going to work in another country, or I have a colleague who's from another country, that idea of national cultural differences. Everybody, especially in this whole diversity and inclusion world, we're all thinking about, sincerely thinking about differences, like, okay, what do I need to know about the other person from his or her lens? Which is important, but that's like one half of the equation.
Yeah.
The other half of the equation is the competencies you bring to that new situation, to that situation of being in a multicultural environment. And that's what the book was about. So there's lots of books out there about, if you're in Germany, do this. If you're in Mexico, do that.
If you're an American, eat cereal in front of the
eat your cereal during the meeting, no one cares. Right.
Yeah.
It's exactly it. So the way this book unfolded was to say, look, yes, that's important. So chapter 1, we talk about those cultural differences. But the rest of the chapters it's not enough just to know how countries and cultures differ. You really need to know how to manage yourself in a multicultural, international, cross-cultural environment.
Yeah.
So the book is much more about, these competencies that you can build to do this well.
Right, I see. Why is that important then? I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I'm actually in the Philippines, but I'm doing work for an Australian company, as a, separate thing. It's kind of entrepreneurial. I don't want to go into it, but anyway, the thing is that, um, but I'm from the UK.
Right.
So it's kind of, but I mean, there's British people, and I'm working with British people and Australian people. Of course, it's using, online because of the pandemic. So it's working from home, kind of what we're doing, just talking to the camera like this. So that's quite interesting what you're bringing up there, really. Of course, I'm
Yeah.
speaking mainly to Australian business people, and business owners, and I don't know too much about Australian culture because I've mostly grown up in the UK, so that's the other side of the world, probably more closer to America, which is why you always say on the other side of the pond rather than on the other side underneath. Like I can't remember what they called it now, but upside down, or I can't remember what they called it with Australia, completely the other side of the world. But anyway, without sidetracking, yeah, I mean, why is that so important? I mean, I'm just saying it because I'm actually in the situation where it's very cross-cultural what I'm doing, and in the Zoom era, if you like.
Right. Right. I mean, why is it important? It's important because the more cosmopolitan we become, the kind of career you just described, you're in the Philippines working as a Brit, working with Australians, doing this, doing that, without leaving your home.
Yeah.
The more cosmopolitan we become, the more cultural differences start to drive the perception of cultural differences drive down. But the reality is that we're all socialized, whether we're socialized by from our families, from our religion, from our professional endeavors we have, from the communities we live in, from our educational systems, keep going. These socializing agents, everything just layers on, and it becomes the way we interpret the world. So unless we have this healthy respect for the idea that everybody's interpreting the same thing through a different brain, through a different limbic system, we tend to get it wrong. So why is it so important? It's so important because whenever our brains hit a situation of novelty, our brains are essentially, our brains are lazy.
Right.
They're
Okay.
inherently.
You're calling me lazy?
I'm not calling you lazy. I'm calling
everyone. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, go on.
Everyone with a functioning brain. So we try to conserve our brain's energy, and we do it by using, I mean, this is the most natural thing in the world. We do it in a few ways. We do it by looking around and using what we understand the world to be and understand what to be true, and you interpret it as such. So unless you can kind of say, look, I can take the competencies I have to realize that, yep, I hear it, I see it, this is what my brain is interpreting, but you know what, there's these different ways of seeing it. That's perspective taking. Or I need to ask more questions, that's humility. Or I need more time to linger in this ambiguity, that's tolerance for ambiguity. Or I'm going to get it wrong and I need to get better at it, that's resilience. I mean, so these competencies are so critical to be effective in a multicultural environment because we are fundamentally human.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's quite. Well, it does make sense. I've actually travelled. I'm quite a well-travelled person, so I also like to get ingrained with the culture, find out the cultural feel of so speak to the locals and do as much locally as I can. It's easy in a Western world, like for example, going to the States or even Australia or somewhere where it's and even Europe, because although they have their own culture. I don't know. It's kind of like, well, I suppose Western living. Well, maybe Europe might be different actually, or the actual, mainland Europe. But
it's interesting. We did a study once. This was ages ago, but looking at Anglos going to Anglo cultures and Anglos going to live and work in non-Anglo cultures.
Yeah.
And it was actually Anglos going to Anglo cultures that had a greater adjustment challenge.
Oh, really? Okay.
The explanation was really kind of interesting. What we found was that it was a couple of things going on, that if your company was sending you on an international assignment, it was pretty natural to say, hey, I'm Australian, I'm going to go to the UK, I'm British, I'm going to Canada, I'm this, I'm going to go. And it's going to be easier.
Oh, okay.
And as soon as you begin to say, hey, it's all the same, it's easier, you expect everything to be the same. So then your brain wants to be even lazier. So the little subtle differences become almost jarring. Whereas when you go to a culture that's very different, it is overtly very different. It slows your brain down and you almost are forced to be present and mindful and interpret the world and be a little
Yeah,
more
yeah.
humble and, ask more questions. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, saying that, I've been sort of between London and Asia in the last recent years before the pandemic, but obviously in Asia because I'm, work and the position you have to be while we're in lockdown, if you like. But um, the culture is more westernized there. I mean, you call it Anglo. I mean, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but people tend to say Western culture, don't they? Really, that tends to be the word they use, but that tends to be more adapted in less Western countries now. I've seen it here. Certainly the Philippines, they've adopted it anyway a long time ago. But I've been to various parts of Asia, and they're keeping their culture like in India. But of course, if you go to Delhi, the capital, and the business, I'm probably talking more of the business areas. But they're, the younger culture are more, the music is more like, Western music that they're doing. They want to do rap music and things like that, not typically the Eastern, old Eastern stuff, And saying that, obviously the Western world have adopted things like mindfulness and yoga and actually made it more mainstream, if you like, and extracted kind of the religious side out of it, like not in a horrible way, but, to make it, this is good medicine for you kind of thing,
Yeah,
So
really, it's in it. I think that just as much as we talk about national cultures, we need to talk about generational cultures for exactly the reason you described.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
the planet sort of moves in these rhythms, and generations do. They have some shared experiences.
yeah, that's right,
Goodness
yeah.
knows this pandemic will be one. It's one that has globally affected.
Well, certainly we
All.
talk about the internet. I mean, things that with younger generation, it's things like TikTok, but things going viral, and you see it happening the same in different countries. And I think I remember this thing called the ice thing challenge or whatever, and but every country's doing the same thing. All right, fair enough. They've got their own religion, they've got their own kind of way of doing things, but there is this kind of now kind of. Do you think the internet's doing that, where it's kind of like, especially with the younger generation, but
Yeah.
making it kind of like almost equal, like the culture's shared culture now throughout the world.
We need to sort of think about culture in a slightly different way. Think about culture, as an iceberg or an onion, or anything that there's something visible that we see on the outside, right? And then the further and deeper down you go, the more powerful and strong it is. On the surface, you're absolutely right. We are looking and sounding and responding so much more similarly around the world, especially in the cities, the cosmopolitan, the well-educated. It there's not as much variance on what we see. So that tip of the iceberg, or the skin of the onion. What happens though is, and some of the behavior, some of the things we're seeing, the actions, the music we're listening to, the clothes we're wearing,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whatever, then pop
exactly.
culture,
Yeah,
that's becoming quite, like I said, quite homogenized. But the way we're socialized to interpret subjective things like what's right and wrong, what's fair and unfair, what's acceptable and unacceptable,
yeah, yeah, that's
there's
right.
still a core that's happening, and that's far deeper under the
That's true.
surface.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah,
So the reason, part, you had asked at the onset of your podcast why I wrote the book. One of the reasons I wrote the book was because we are becoming so similar on the surface that we're allowing our brains to get even lazier in believing that we all must see the world in the same way. So there's no cultural differences, and
yeah,
in
yeah,
fact,
yeah.
that's
There
getting into
is.
a lot of
Yeah,
trouble.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, there's a place for it, and I think the internet has sped up the sort of made the tip of the iceberg, or the skin of the onion, even more visible.
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
but there's still things that are happening below the surface that we need to be acceptable for. The phrase I always love to use with my students is, because I'm in the United States, and a lot
Yep.
of if you imagine like grandparents, great 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 grandparents in the United States, heritage comes from all over the world. I said, imagine that our great 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 grandparents were all sitting together in this room.
Yeah, yeah,
They would speak different languages, they'd be wearing different clothes, it would be so visible.
yeah, yeah.
Yet we are here, present, looking
The
similar.
same, similar. Yeah, not the same, exactly the
Exactly.
same. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, that's quite interesting actually. Um, I remember actually it's quite funny. I went to New Zealand with my work. This is firefighting. When I was a firefighter, we did the World Firefighter Games. But anyway, the Australians came there was different teams from all over the world, and then they came, and then they were a bit more rowdier than the New Zealanders. They're a bit more sort of quieter, if you like. Although they're they're kind of like neighbours really, although they're quite far away from each other, but they're neighbours, and then the hotel manager, I don't know who it was, he said, "Oh, these Australians, they came here." The joke is because about 200 years ago, when Great Britain discovered Australia, the island, they sent ex-convicts there. That was the first thing. That's the reason why they did it there. So he said, no wonder they're behaving like that. It's it's hereditary from their ex-convict background, But what it is that even though that's kind of like an Anglo to Anglo, there was still even difference in terms. I mean, it's the same as what you're saying about you're very informal compared to maybe the British. Not, I mean, I'm kind of like from a Caribbean and Mauritian background, which is kind of like very mixed, diasporas, if you like. But I was born in Britain and raised in Britain, so I know that. But there is this stiff upper lip, more formal kind of behavior, So in the workplace, you kind of adhere to that, don't you? Really, in terms of the business etiquette type of things. But like you say, if you're eating cereal, it's like, oh, that shouldn't be allowed, kind of thing. Really, but that kind of thing.
It's just your brain automatically.
But it's the sort of thing that I would do, actually. I would do that, and then they'll complain about it. Say, yeah, look, Dave's done that again. It's like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm meant to be very formal here. So yeah, but there is even, like you say, that difference in the Anglo kind of Anglo to Anglo, if you like, countries. So yeah,
the use of silence, I think, is fascinating. Also, something that happens on Zoom calls it's a massive cultural difference. In some cultures, silence indicates being thoughtful, being pensive, being engaged. In other cultures, silence means being disinterested, tuning out.
Right, yeah.
Some cultures interrupting, like I'm doing to you right now.
But we're having a conversation. Having a conversation, so it's not. Right. Yeah, it's not a meeting.
But if I was doing this to someone who was from a culture where that was considered inappropriate, I would consider it, and it's reflexive. I would be unintentionally trying to be rude, but it would be as rude. So I keep going back to just because we're using technology doesn't mean culture's vanishing.
So I see exactly now. Exactly that conversation we just had just now really illustrates that, really, doesn't it? Really. So someone from New Zealand, Australia, and America and Britain will have that different kind of way of etiquette, if you like. So I suppose on camera, like you say, one person will find it unacceptable if they were interrupted, or if at breakfast or acted like ex-convicts. Don't know, I'm joking, but you know what I mean anyway. But not that I have anything against that convict. It's just it was just funny when that came up. It's just funny when that came up, that's all. But yeah, what I'm trying to say. So in a Zoom meeting, you might see those different subtleties of cross-cultural kind of ways of behaving, and it's like, oh, hang on a minute, like that. Is that kind of what I'm guessing at what you're trying to say?
Yeah, it's Zoom meetings, it's face-to-face meetings, it's everything that anytime you're with someone who's been socialized through a different lens. I mean, the best example, you don't even have to leave your home country, you don't have to leave your hometown, just watch two generations mix.
Right.
And watch how they, because they've been socialized, even if they've been socialized in the same way from a national perspective or a cultural perspective in terms of geography, they've had a different set of socializing agents from life stage.
Yeah.
And watching them mix, and it's just the perceptions of right, wrong, good, bad, fair, unfair, appropriate, inappropriate. You can't turn it off. We cannot turn it off.
Right. So building your cultural agility, what would that actually? Now we've kind of have a long discussion of our own interpretation of various cultures and what it means. But what is building your cultural agility?
Right. So the idea behind the book is to say, look, there are 9 competencies that my research has uncovered that are inherent in people who are really great at this. And some of them are these, they're self-management competencies. Is how do you handle yourself within a novel and a new environment, in an environment, whether it's generational or you're in a new company or you're with people who are from a different country, whatever. How do you, so it's how do you manage yourself in that environment? And then the second bucket of three competencies is how do you manage your relationships? How do you engage? And then the third is how do you manage the work you're being asked to do? And each of those, the three, and three, each of those competencies are critical for success. And usually what happens is everyone kind of leads with one or the other, but everyone could use some help building out those that they're a little bit weaker in. So the idea of the book was to say, here's an opportunity to build out these competencies. It's fun. We have an online assessment tool, so you can go on and assess your own cross-cultural competencies. It's free.
Okay.
You don't need to buy the book to go on to it.
Yeah.
It's called My Guide. So it's www.mygide, so My Guide with 2 I's.
Yeah.
.com. You can go on, check it out, look at your cultural competencies. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow. Well, in a nutshell, what are the 9 competencies of successful global professionals? I'm not sure if I need to include myself in that category.
We have those. Well, they're competencies like self-management, competencies like tolerance of ambiguity, what we were describing, resilience, curiosity, some of these really natural competencies that enable you, basically it enables you to handle the novelty of the ambiguity or the complexity a little bit longer without having either your dopamine spike or your need for cognitive closure, your need to figure it out quickly. You can manage yourself in that new environment a little longer. So that's the self-management. The relationship management is things like humility and perspective taking, and those ideas that, your ability to build relationships. The idea that the only way you can really learn in a novel environment is to be socialized into it. And the only way to do that is to connect with people who understand it. So that's the second set. Third set is a little different. That's saying, it's how you manage the task. There's situations where, and this is where, it's not a more is better. It's just try to figure out when the right time is to use each of these three competencies. There's situations where you need to adapt to the situation you're in, cultural adaptation. There's other situations where, it might be safety, it might be ethics, it might be production schedules, something, but there are times when you need to hold a standard and you need to use persuasion and motivation to do something that's countercultural. And then there's a third one, and that's cultural integration, and that's the one where you say, look, it's not going to be my way, your way. We're just going to come up with a new way of working together, and our way of working together isn't going to look like the team next to us. We're going to do it as a group, even though we're from different. So those are. Sorry, it was kind of a long answer, but those are those are self-management, relationship management, and task management.
Wow. Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, I didn't really ask much questions about yourself, really. Tell us about your background. I know you're a professor, so I felt very challenged already intellectually, but no, I'm joking. But what's your background? I mean, obviously you're a professor of the International Business School, but you live in Boston, which isn't far from where I used to go to New York quite a lot, which isn't far from Boston, is it? It's about 3-4 hours drive, isn't it, really? So what's your journey into this?
Yeah, my journey is not very elegant at all.
Oh, okay.
I was, in 1987, I was studying abroad.
Oh, where?
And I'm back then in the 80s, the only kids that really went abroad, the only American kids that went abroad were wealthy children,
Yeah.
And I was not one of them. My dad was a worker. My mom was a homemaker. I had just worked really hard to save up money. But in the fall of 1987, the market crashed. The market crashed. My money was worth nothing that I had saved. I called for money. My parents said, "Sweetheart, get a job." So while the other kids were, jetting off to Greece and Switzerland to go, skiing, whatever.
The rich kids.
The rich kids, right? Everyone but me. I'm by myself, but I had a different experience. My family, my heritage is Southern Italian. I have a lot of family in Southern Italy. I spent more time with them. I spent more time with Italian friends.
We're in Southern Italy. I've been to Southern Italy. I went to a place called Calabria.
That's where my family is from. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's the only place I've been to. I stayed there, spent a weekend there. So, I mean, I've
Wow.
stopped over in.
Usually people say Rome or Florence or Milan.
Well, I mean, I stopped over in Rome and Milan, but yeah, I liked it there actually. It wasn't too bad. You could see Sicily, couldn't you? Just right on the other side. But anyway, let's not bore the. Well, I'm sure they'll find it interesting talking about travels, but I think they're listening more about the interest of your, your background. So yeah, so you spent time in it, southern Italy.
The journey was actually one. So when I ended up returning to finish out my college degree, some psychology professors said, "Paul, what's wrong with you? You seem sort of down, depressed." I said, "I don't know. I just feel like I'm a different person from that experience."
Yeah.
And they said, "If it was so fascinating for you, why don't you study it?" But back in '88, my graduate application said I wanted to study what makes people effective living and working internationally, and I want to know how they change from deep developmental cross-cultural experiences.
Yeah.
So my joke is that 30 something years later, I am still studying what makes people effective living and working internationally and how they change from deep cross-cultural experience.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, I'm certainly a product of that right now. I can tell you that much for definite. But yeah. Well, as I say, I'm a well-traveled man. The only thing is I haven't really been to mainland Africa. I think that's a place I need to go since I've always wanted to go to mainland India and Africa to just see it's always a kind of culture that people want to sort of explore as well because
beautiful planet.
Yeah, definitely the whole planet. Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. Well, it's really great pleasure having you here, Paula. And can you explain, or sorry, tell my listeners wherever they can find your book and also more about the work you're doing yourself?
Sure. So I understand the book is available pretty much wherever fine books are sold.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are buying it on Amazon, but certainly wherever fine books are sold. The book, Build Your Cultural Agility, is really a compilation. It's supposed to be accessible. It's to help people become really effective in a multicultural environment. It represents about 30 years of research. It doesn't sound that way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it like it doesn't sound like an I hope.
Well,
if I didn't, so they tell me. So it's meant to be useful and helpful. As I mentioned earlier, there's a free web app that people can go and do some self-assessment.
Yeah.
Truly, I am a firm believer that the best thing we can hope for in our world is for people to start getting more comfortable seeing the similarities we have in each other.
Yeah.
And it's these competencies that will build that. And I don't want to sound naive, but I really do believe that if we can start moving the needle on some of these cross-cultural competencies, we can start moving the needle on ending inequity and racism and xenophobia.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
hopeful. I'll go to my grave trying.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could move on to a different topic. Obviously, it's been a hot topic, especially in the States, but obviously it's certainly one issue that was going on. And that's not even cross-cultural because it's happening in the US and there's this kind of differences going on there still, isn't there, really? But
yeah, but it's still perception of people as other. And
yeah.
If you one of the people always ask, I'm getting obviously doing a lot of these interviews for because of the book and because when they come out of the US, it's a front and center topic. And I always say, well, what's the one skill everyone needs? And I always say, it's the best thing we can do is to learn how to see similarity. The moment you find similarity in another person, say for instance, if you both have teenage children or elderly parents, or you both have the same dog, same type of dog, or
something in common.
Anything in common. Find a similarity, and all of a sudden, difference melts away.
We both went to the Calabria. We've both been to Calabria.
Right.
I've been to America, but not Boston, so that's not the same place. No. But yeah, just kidding. Anyway.
But it's the perception of similarity that enables people to start forming anything. It gives you a toehold to begin the conversation that enables people to see people as people. Empathy builds the greater the similarity. Empathy builds. So unfortunately, even this is a natural human tendency. When our brains are under stress, we cling to familiar. It's the reason why there's comfort food in every single culture around the world. When we're under stress, we seek comfort. When we're under stress, we seek comfort, and that also means friends, family. So COVID pandemic, who did we cling to? Old friends, close family, people we love. We almost became reticent, and there was danger or risk, but we became reticent to kind of go out and really meet new people. It's natural. If you ever go into like an orientation of brand new college students, kids who are out of their element for the first time, they're in pockets of demography. Like there's all these groups that are so similar. And you could look at that as just an observer and say, wow, look at all this racism. Or you can say, you know what, when people are under stress, they cling to familiar. The second you break that, because we've done research on this, like experiments, the second you break that and help people see similarity, they cling to a different group of people, and whoever is scattered out the demography. Not racism or xenophobia. It's just a natural human tendency.
Well, I suppose student life does that as well, especially if you're in an international student kind of environment. I think during the pandemic, some students still had to stay, amongst each other. So is that what you mean in terms of clinging? They're not amongst their own people, if you like, but amongst.
Yeah. I think it's just. I think what we have to recognize is that it's a natural human tendency. When you have anxiety in your life or stress in your life, you cling to the things that are familiar. If you're walking into a situation, a networking event, and you don't know anyone, and you see someone demographically like you, you're going to find you're going to project that person as someone that you connect with, versus someone who's demographically very different from you, who might have something in common. The second you learn that, all of a sudden the person.
It's like there's this kind of black I'm not saying it in a racist way, but kind of black acknowledgement. Oh yeah, I see you. So like I'm here in the Philippines and I'll see in Africa because there's a lot of African students here, so they'll see me and say, there's another black guy there. There's a lot of obviously Americans, expats here, so it's kind of like you'll see an expat and it's like, oh yeah, I see you, kind of thing.
Community. Even I don't know what they do where you are, but I noticed some people who drive certain cars, they wave at each other when you see someone with the same car.
That happens as well. That used to happen with the Beetle. There was always this kind of culture because the Beetle it still is a collector's car, I think, but there was this kind of Beatles club. So whenever you saw them, when it started in the 70s or 80s, there's always this waving, because it's I think they even had the club, and stuff like that. It's probably online now still, but it's I can exactly see what you're talking about now, in terms of that. Well, you've done an even deeper study than me trying to get this in half an hour or 40 minutes of talking with you. But certainly, if anyone's listening, do check out Paula's book, Build Your Cultural Agility, the 9 Competencies of Successful Global Professionals. I suppose not only professionals, but anyone in a kind of career setting or whatever can benefit from it, can't they, really? With this discussion we had, it's very kind of, not informal, I don't want to use that word again. It's kind of very generic, wasn't it, really? The way we did this conversation today, it wasn't really pointing particularly at professionals, was it, really? So
it doesn't have to be business. So we've worked with people who are in the military, volunteers, people in religious groups who work multiculturally, athletes who are on multicultural, students who are in a multicultural university environment. Really, it's anyone who is working in the novelty of a multicultural environment and wants to get better at it.
Wow,
pretty much all of us these days.
Well, on the note of your book, they can find it on Amazon. And where else can they learn more about yourself? Which website can they go to?
Oh, sure. So you can go on to our Skillify. You mentioned Skillify at the beginning. That's AIILIFY. So skillify.com. They're again also welcome to go to myguide.com if they want to do the free assessment. Lots of different ways to connect.
Excellent. I've got myguide.com on the show notes. So anyone listening, they can certainly click on there. I think I've got another website, tasca global.com. Yeah, so you certainly get around with these websites, don't you? I'm joking. But yeah, well, Paula, it's Dr. Paula Caligiuri. It's been a great pleasure talking with you. It felt like I was talking to a friend in a bar, just having a good old chat and saying, yeah, let's have an intellectual. You know, like when I'm talking to my professor when I'm, you know, in the middle of my politics exam, you know, saying, what do I do? And I'm talking to you, my teacher, kind of thing. It's like, it's a bit like that, you know, in a student bar though, you know. But anyway, Paula, sorry, I'm just, it's a great pleasure having you here on the show and sharing this great knowledge about culture and obviously the deep work you've done there, and be a pleasure to have you back as well on a similar topic, any topics related to that. So do come back if you can.
Oh, that would be wonderful, Dave. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.